DreAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up. You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day by day to do the work, day after day to do the work, confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is blame is not in your repertoire. Blame, B-L-A-M-E, not in your repertoire. All right, this episode stems from a lively conversation that I was having with some interesting, for lack of a better term, to say the least, some interesting folks over on the app called X. This is the only place, if you want to have a conversation with me textually, the only place it happens is either you're a member of Work on Your Game University and you have direct access to me, or if you jump on one of my morning live streams from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. I talk about certain subjects and you can leave comments and I'll read and reply to your comments out loud in the stream. Or the last way is you can be on X and I may jump into a conversation that either I started or someone else started. Often I'll jump into conversations that other people have already started and just start talking about, whatever the subject at hand happens to be. Usually it's some type of social issue, current event. It also could be sometimes evergreen things, but usually it's a social issue or current event. But on X, that used to be known as Twitter, we were talking about some business situations that allegedly happened to some people after the import tariffs that went in through the current Trump administration had went into effect. So when these tariffs went into effect, some people's businesses were very strongly affected in a negative way. And there were some people saying that these businesses were in really bad situations due to the tariffs because the costs for them running their business had increased seemingly overnight. I do believe this is true. Did this happen to some businesses? Yes, it did. Now, this episode is not really about the current event of the tariffs themselves. If you want to hear me talk about current events, again, check my live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern, because in the live streams, I usually can talk about on Tuesday, I can talk about something that happened on Monday. These shows, this episode, this very platform, the Work on Your Game masterclass / podcast, I record these episodes anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks ahead of when they actually come out. So I'm usually not talking about current events. And even if I am talking about a current event, I'm talking about it so far ahead that it's not like I'm responding to something that happened right there in the moment. I'm not a news reporter. I will talk about a current event, but I talk about it in a bigger more evergreen sense, if you all understand that. But if you want to hear me talk about a current event when it's current, check my live streams again, 8 a.m. Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday on TikTok, Instagram, Rumble, X, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and that's it. Yeah, all 7 platforms. I'm on all of them at the same time. Exact same content, different cameras, all saying the same thing at the same time. So anyway, what we're going to talk about here today is not the current event, but the mindset that it became very clear to me that few people have, that I'm going to explain, I'm going to reiterate, and hopefully I'm going to install it into everyone listening to this here today. If you do not already have this installed, you must have this mentality installed. The topic again here today is blame is not in your repertoire. Point number 1, when you are a leader, you do not have the luxury of blaming anyone for anything. When you are a leader, you do not have the luxury of blaming anyone for anything. So I'm bringing this up. I'm bringing up the frame that I gave you. These people talking about the tariffs had hurt their business in a negative way. And one of the things that I said was, hey, if your business got hurt by the tariff, you are still responsible for that, even though you could technically say Trump introducing the tariffs put you in a bad spot. Maybe that's true, but you're the business owner. Being that you're the business owner, if your business was in a position where a change like that could destroy your business, you are still responsible for being in a position to where it could even happen to you. And then people were saying, well, hey, if the president is dumb and he does something dumb, then that's not the fault of the business owner. I said, everything is the fault of the business owner. This is the first point. This I want you to get. When you are a leader, and you don't have to be a business owner to be a leader. If you're the coach of a sports team, if you're the best player on a sports team, if you're the head of a household, if you're a leader in a community, if you're the head of a group that's doing anything, if you're the owner of a business and something goes wrong in that organization in which you are the leader, you're responsible for it. You can't blame anybody. You are responsible for it. Even though you may not have caused the problem, you are responsible for the problem. Again, you went to bed last night, everything was good. You woke up this morning, everything is shit. And some idiot did something and made everything into shit. And that idiot is not you, but you're the owner, is your responsibility. This is what we call the penalty of leadership. And I'm leaving that pause in there because I want that one to sink in. This is called the penalty of leadership. This is the trade-off of being a leader. Remember what I told you. First 3 laws of economics. Episode number, 3216? And now I forgot the number again. I'm going to remember this number because I keep referring back to this episode. 3261. Episode 3261. First 3 laws of economics. Law number 3. There are no free lunches. What that means is you cannot get something for nothing. Everything you get, there's a cost. The cost of being a leader is that you are responsible for everything that happens, good and bad, even though you didn't do it. When all possibilities have been exhausted and everyone on the team can figure out how to solve the problem, everybody's sitting around and guess what they're waiting for? They're waiting for you to figure it out. Even though all of them tried, none of them could figure it out. All of them put together, there's 50 of them, none of them all together could figure out how to solve it. They're all looking at you and guessing that you're going to figure it out. And they're actually expecting and depending on you to figure it out, even though you got all of them on your team just so that they can figure things out, and they fail to figure it out. You got to save the day. That's your job. That's the penalty of leadership. Wait a minute, I got all 50 of you mofos on my payroll to solve problems. Y'all can't solve a problem. Now I got to solve the problem even though I'm paying you to solve problems? Yes. Yes, that's your job, leader. You want to be a leader? This is your job. This is the burden of being a person at the head of the table. Are you going to take on this burden? Are you willing to take on this burden? Make up your mind, because there's a lot that comes with it, both on the positive and the negative side. Remember, everything has a trade-off. Episode 3261. Also remember, there are no perfect scenarios in life, only trade-offs. That's episode number 2174. The reason why people are willing to look to you as a leader is because you clean up messes. You solve problems and you fix shit that other people broke. Let me say that sentence again because I really want this one to be drilled into your psyche. What makes you a leader is that you solve problems, you clean up messes, and you fix shit that other people broke. That's why you're a leader. Do you want to be that person for people in your life? If so, understand you do not have the luxury of other people being that for you. So let me say that one more time. I want to make sure you got it. If you want to be the person who cleans up messes, solves problems, and fix shit that other people break, you won't have anybody in your life who can do it for you, but you got to be that for everybody else. That's what leadership is about. And you get to decide if you want to take this on or not. Understand, if you take on leadership, this comes with it whether you want it or not. All right, there's no exceptions in the contract. All right, this comes with it. Standard issue, it comes with it. You buy a house with a big yard, somebody got to cut the grass. All right, there's no exceptions. You got it? Point number 2. Today's topic, once again, is blame is not in your repertoire. Number 2, everything that happens is your responsibility, even if it's not your fault. 2 different words, 2 different meanings. Everything that happens is your responsibility. What does that mean? That means you have the ability to respond to it. And you must use that ability, even if it's not your fault, meaning you did not cause it. You still got to do something about it. You still got to respond to it, even though you didn't cause it. You didn't cause your kid to jump off the couch and break his arm, and now he's screaming with his bone sticking out of his skin, and you're not responsible. It's not your fault that your dumb 3-year-old did that, but you got to interrupt your workday and drop him to the emergency room, getting his blood all over the seats of your brand new car because this kid decided to jump off the couch. That's not a true story. All right. Hopefully it never becomes one. But you get my point. Not my fault, but my responsibility. You get it? As a matter of fact, we can go even further. It doesn't even fucking matter whose fault anything is. Again, what is the title of this episode? Blame is not in your repertoire. So blame and fault are sisters in this context. Doesn't matter whose fault something is. If you're the leader, you're responsible for fixing it regardless of who did it. Don't really matter who did it. You got to fix it. If you're a basketball player, you're the best player on the team and nobody else on the team is making any shots, but you really want to win the game, well, you don't have time to go around pointing at your teammates for missing shots. At some point, you got to do something to win the game right now because there's a clock up there, and if that clock hits all zeros and y'all losing, you lose the game. Your goal is to win the game. You better go make some shots. After the game, you can worry about who didn't play well tonight, but during the game, you better go make some shots, otherwise you're going to lose. And if you're the leader, that loss is going to be on your track record. Everybody understand this? So fault doesn't even matter. If you're the leader, you're responsible. Fault is completely irrelevant to a leader. I shall repeat. Fault is completely irrelevant to a leader. It doesn't matter who's at fault when you're a leader. It doesn't matter who's to blame when you're a leader, because everything's on you no matter what. It doesn't matter who did it. This person, that person, them, him, her, them, they, doesn't matter. You got to fix the problems. That's the job of a leader. You solve the problems. Didn't we just talk about this a few days ago? You are the person who solves the problems. I talked about this in episode number 1343, how to solve the problems and add value. You want to be a high level person in life, you must solve the problems. The person who is best at solving the problems becomes the leader. You are the valuable person. You are the needed person. You become the essential employee. Okay, I talked about this episode 2889. You are in the problem business. As an entrepreneur, you are in the business of solving problems. As long as you can solve problems, you will always be valuable. If you can't solve problems, you're not valuable. The most valuable people solve the most problems. Episode 2726, how to solve unsolvable problems. Episode 2723, how to solve problems. Episode 2623, more money, more problems. That's a 2-part series. So as long as you can solve problems, you will always be valuable. Episode 2340, your top 5 problems after your business is making money. As you can see, we talk about problems all the time. Why? Because a leader's job is to solve problems, identify and solve problems. And if you want to be an entrepreneur, your only job is to identify a problem and figure out how to solve it. And then let people know that you figured it out. They'll pay you for it. So fault and blame are for women and children. I say that metaphorically. If you're a leader, you do not have the luxury of putting fault and blame on anybody. And as a matter of fact, you don't even need those words in your vocabulary. I just told you. The title of this episode is Blame is Not in Your Repertoire. It doesn't even matter who's to blame. If you want to be a leader, a boss, a decision maker, a difference maker in life, you must be willing to take full responsibility of everything in and around you that you want to have control over. We talked about difference makers in episode number 2079. Good players versus difference makers. There's a difference. And there's the reason why I did that episode. The very next episode, how to go from good player to difference maker. You want to be a difference maker in life? There's a difference between being a good player and being a difference maker. Go listen to those episodes so you can understand. If you want to be a boss, you take responsibility for everything. Full responsibility, not partial, full responsibility. Anything you want to have influence over, you must be willing to take ownership over its situation. This is especially important when there are other factors involved and other people involved, because it is inevitable that something outside of yourself is going to cause a situation that you are going to be responsible for fixing. It is in these moments that we find out if you are truly a leader or if you're not a leader. I have shared with you many stories. When I ended up out of my college basketball program as a junior in college, I could easily have drawn a bunch of lines towards how my idiot coach was responsible for the situation. And in a literal sense, he was responsible for the situation. He messed up. He didn't quite know what he was doing. And I can easily explain to you very logically why he was responsible for me no longer being on the basketball team. He's the one who chose to have me out of the program. I didn't decide to not be in the program. He decided to not have me. But the only reason I continued to play basketball and I became a professional in basketball is because I took ownership of the circumstance, even though somebody else caused the circumstance. And this is what I mean. Leadership is taking ownership over something that somebody else started. Somebody else caused it, an issue. When you take ownership of problems and issues and you handle it and fix it anyway, that's what makes you a leader. Because if you take ownership of something that's going good, then you're going to have a lot of competition. Everybody wants to take ownership of good stuff. Nobody wants to take ownership of things that ain't going good. You take ownership of a situation that is shit, you're not going to have any competition because nobody else wants it. All right, everybody's waiting for somebody to pick that up. Oh, you picked it up? All right, good luck with that, bro. And then you figure it out. That's what makes you a leader. That right there. Point number 3. Today's topic, once again, is blame is not in your repertoire. Number 3, I told you in episode number 1025 the following. Opportunity is always in the opposites. Opportunity is always in the opposites. Since most people do not want to accept the mindset that I'm pushing on you here today, your opportunity is being one of the few who is willing to do so. The opportunity is being the person who is willing to do what most people are not willing to do, which is take on responsibility for things that are not of your doing. They are not your fault and you are not to blame, but you take responsibility for it anyway. That's what makes you a leader. That's what makes you a boss. Most people don't want to do that. And that's where the opportunity is. The opportunity is always in the things that most people don't want to do, ladies and gentlemen. Most people don't want to wake up early. So opportunity is in waking up early. Most people don't want to put in extra work. Opportunity is in putting in extra work. Look at all the things that you know are good for you that most people don't do and you maybe don't do. That's the opportunity right there. As the old saying goes, opportunity is dressed up in overalls and disguised as hard work. Sounds something like that, right? Since most people don't want to accept the mindset that I'm giving you, your opportunity is to accept it. Most people, when something goes wrong in their life, the first thing they do is start looking for who they can blame and who they can put at fault for the situation. Not because that person's going to go fix it, whoever they blame, but because they can sleep at night knowing that this problem is not my fault, somebody else's fault. Somebody else got to do something about that. It ain't going to be me. Most people, this is the way that they think. They might not say it out loud, but this is the way that they think. You don't want to be like most people. You don't want to be like most people, right? Because by definition, most people are average. The reality is when you're a leader, it doesn't matter who's to blame because you are responsible for the situation. So how about we just skip the blaming part and go straight to the solutions? The solution is in the mirror. That's the reason why you, leader, get paid the big bucks. That's why you get a big piece of chicken at dinner. That's why you get served first. That's why you sit at the head of the damn table, because you're willing to take on this leadership role. And as soon as you no longer want to accept the penalty of leadership, meaning that you get blamed and looked at every problem because you're expected to solve everything, you are no longer the leader. As soon as you don't want to take the penalty of leadership, you can't lead anymore. So you can't just take the good parts and not take the bad parts. Or the beneficial parts and not take the challenging parts, whatever way you want to language it. When you become the victim of circumstances that are created by people who are not willing to take on, when you become the victim of circumstances that are created by other people who are willing to lead, excuse me, let me say that one more time. I'm tripping over myself here. So back to what I said before, when you no longer want to accept the penalty of leadership, meaning you get blamed and looked at every time you don't want to accept the penalty of leadership. You're blamed and looked at as at fault for every unwanted circumstance that occurs. When you don't want to do that anymore, you don't want to be the person who's expected to solve every issue that comes up. You are no longer the leader and you become a victim of circumstance. And those circumstances are created by the leaders. Leaders create circumstances. Followers become victims of circumstance. You have to decide which one do you want to be. And this is a binary choice. So my closing question to you is, what is it going to be? Let's recap today's class, which is blame is not in your repertoire. Again, this stems from a conversation I was having with some people talking about business and how something that was not of the doing of an entrepreneur ended up adversely affecting their business. And the conversation was about, well, is it still their responsibility to do something about it? The answer is hell yes. Number one, when you are a leader, you don't have the luxury of blaming anyone for anything. This is called the penalty of leadership. Everything that happens around the thing that you're the leader of, you are responsible for, even if you had nothing to do with the negative situation that occurred. Number two, everything that happens is your responsibility, even when it's not your fault. As a matter of fact, it doesn't matter whose fault it is. Again, blame is not in your repertoire. Fault is not in the repertoire of a leader because it doesn't matter. You're responsible for it either way. So who cares who's at fault? You still got to fix the problem. Now you can blame him, her, them, or they. You still have to fix the problem. So again, why does it even matter? In a big picture, it doesn't really matter. Maybe you can fire the person who keeps messing up. It matters in that sense. But other than that, when it comes time to actually doing the thing that needs to be done, it doesn't matter who's at fault. Number three, I told you in episode number 1025, the opportunity is always in the opposites in life. What does that mean? Well, since most people don't want to accept the penalty of leadership, most people don't want to take responsibility for things that are not their quote unquote fault. The opportunity is being the person who is willing to do it because most people are too lazy and too mentally weak to accept this burden of responsibility. The question is, what do you want to do? All that said, everybody, workonyourgameuniversity.com. You want to have me as your direct coach. You want to get access and learn the bulletproof mindset and how to install it and how to apply it for your personal and professional life with me coaching you along the way the entire time. Go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Have me as your coach and let's get to work on that. Work on your game. Dre, all